Hello and welcome to another edition of Banana Island Living. And I know I'm always sort of excited about my guest, but today is really, really fantastic. I'm so thrilled. I'm talking to somebody who we've just actually, last time we were speaking, found out that we sort of crossed paths, but we didn't quite know at the University of Ife. And my guest today is Professor Niyi Coker. Hello.
How you doing? How you doing? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing me in and inviting me to this.
No, you're so gracious. And it's just like talking to an old friend. We've segued on to different, just you name it. We've talked about different things. But let me tell our listeners about your impressive career so far. I mean, there's so much going on in your life. So I'm just going to talk about a little part of it, and then further down, then I'll talk about a little bit more. Niyi Coker Jr. is currently professor and director of the School of Theatre, Television and Film at the San Diego University in California. Now, before that, for 14 years, he was the E. Desmond Lee Endowed Chair and Distinguished Professor in African American Studies at the University of Missouri in St. Louis. And in spite of formidable opposition, he created the first and only degree-granting program in African American Studies at the University of Alabama in 1999. That's 30 years post-civil rights movement. And before that, he'd gone through the same thing, creating the first African American Studies degree program at the University of Wyoming in 1993. And he's the author of 2 books, several articles, award-winning documentary film director, and his films have Best Film Awards at the London International Film Festival, the Madrid Film Festival, the French Nice International. Yeah, no, I could go on, but hey, his CV is super impressive. It makes me feel like a slacker. Like,
oh, come on.
I feel like a slacker. I've done very little.
I don't have a podcast that's doing this well.
No. You've got a film. I mean, the podcast is for the poor man's version. This is a poor man's version of creation. So no, I'm in awe of what you've managed to achieve. So tell me, you were at University of Ife.
Yes, very proudly.
1979 to 1982 or 83?
83, the best university in the world.
Yeah, old Ife, great Ife.
Great Ife, the best in the world.
Yes. Now, were you there with Soyinka at that time?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Very much so. Through the entire period, 1983, he was a very hands-on and very inspirational, and directed, I was in about 4, 5, 6 shows that he directed. And of course, he taught the major classes: humanist, tradition and drama, aesthetics, the directing class itself. So yes.
I mean, that era at Ife, I mean, if you mention anybody there, it's like name dropping, isn't it? Because when we were talking, you said Ahmed Yerimah, Omotoso, Ogunbiyi, everybody's gone on to great things. Yeah. And so what is it about that period? Was it, first of all, what drew you to Ife? Was it Soyinka that drew you to Ife, or was it just serendipity, or what?
Well, the things that funny, I had always been going to Ife as a child. Right. Before Professor Soyinka came to Ife, my uncle, Ola Rotimi, my mom's brother.
Oh, wow.
Had been at Ife.
Ola Rotimi was your uncle?
My mom's brother. There are 3 kids in the family. There's an older brother. There's my mom, who's the only girl, and then...
The gods are not to blame.
Yes. So basically, I had been going to Ife, and I had been very acquainted with the folks at Orelokon. And so in terms of trajectory and interest in doing theater, it had always been a very, innate interest, even through high school. And so, it was a natural thing for me at that point, writing the exams to come to Ife. But my uncle, of course, had left at that point for Port Harcourt. But he'd gone to Port Harcourt, but I knew Ife was where I wanted to do theater, no place else. Not Lagos, not Ibadan,
Not UI, because Femi Oshofi show was
no,
there.
no, not UI. Oh, no, not UI. No way. Nothing. Lots of friends went to UI, but I think Ife was on a radical cutting edge at that point.
At that time, it was amazing.
Ife was yes.
Because I remember they wouldn't even allow churches or mosques on it, but they allowed the Ifa or whatever it is, and we used to go to Oshobo.
Oh yeah, with one Bimbola. Yeah.
Yes. That was awesome.
Yeah. And if you remember in Ife, there was no English department. There was a department of literature in English.
Yes, literature in English.
Literature in English, again, which again shows you the focus, that it was a very Africa-centered, culture-centered university. Incredible
place at that time. So how come you left Nigeria for the US? What was the driver?
No, I left to go to graduate school. I really wanted to expand my education and knowledge in terms of doing an MFA, which is a terminal degree in theater. And but the program I was looking at the same time at CUNY Brooklyn College was a program that also had it had film in it as well. So the MFA was a combination of theater and film and television, as to get the MFA in directing. So that basically was one of the major reasons, and the attractions was I wasn't looking for a program that was very puritanical, just pure theater or pure film. The combination that it combined theater and film and television, and so you were trained in all mediums. It even had radio at the time. So you could get trained in all mediums, was very appealing to me. And so actually I just went to go do that MFA in New York City.
And you thought you were coming back?
Yeah, I saw
you didn't see yourself. You thought 1 year, 2 years max.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the MFA is 3 years, and I just thought, all right, okay. I'll finish it in 3 years. It's a terminal degree. Come on back, set up shop in Ife, or start really moving the theater program to that next level where we could actually start working on films and teaching students acting on camera and directing on camera, and expand the program, or even actually practice. So I had all those notions in my mind.
And then what happened?
It didn't happen that way.
What happened?
Life happened. Life happened. At the end of the MFA, I was able to get a gig at MTV to start. And then through MTV, I started to direct at the John Houseman Theater on Theater Row in New York. And working at John Houseman Theater on Theater Row and directing shows, I started running into a lot of... I started getting more into African American theater.
Wow.
And honestly realizing that, in Africa we had not, or in Nigeria, we had very little knowledge, even though at Ife we had a strong basis in some ways, but we had not understand the depth of Black theater in America. And again, during the MFA, of course, we did a lot of, white European plays. And at that point, I tried to introduce South African theater into the program, being an MFA student. And so I started doing the NEC, Understanding Black Theater in America, and ergo the pursuit of doing, I ran into reading a guy named Malefikete Asante.
Okay, I checked you out, and I saw he's played quite a bit of something to do with your life journey.
Yes, that's my mentor, really, academically in African American studies, and so I became the first person to receive a degree in African American studies in the USA in '91. Through his department at Temple University. And Temple, of course, became the first university to start offering PhDs in African American studies. And I got into that first class. I was really very excited about that, because in that program were people like Charles Fuller, who had just won the the Pulitzer for the Soldier Story.
Yeah,
play A Soldier Story, which became the play A Soldier Story. And I was excited to go into that program, and people like Sonia Sanchez were in the program, people like Selwane Keto, people like the late Welsh Asante with the Mufundalai technique, and of course the great man himself, Molifikete Asante.
At the same time?
Yes, the same time. So it was the program was just beginning. It was in its first, and it was the first PhD program in the USA in African American studies. So for me, there was no other. I got PhD admissions into like Columbia and NYU, but I didn't really want to do theater or aesthetics or dramatic theory. I mean, African American studies was, to me, more appropriate. And I'm so glad I did, because I learned so much about how we've been so miseducated in Africa.
Well, it's interesting that our conversation is going into that, because I was going to ask why African American. As a Nigerian, we come with this feeling, this almost, I don't know, it's not arrogance, but we always sort of feel we're enough.
It's an arrogance. Let's say it's an arrogance.
Call it arrogance then. But for you to have that,
it's only a Nigerian who would say, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am?"
Exactly, and then yes, even the gates man would tell you, "Do you know who I am?" But for you to have that understanding of the African American journey that far back, I mean, now we're a bit more woke, we're a bit more empathetic. But what for you? What was the Damascene moment that made you get that awareness?
I think in many ways, what triggered the awareness, the first few years you find yourself as a student, whether it's in Australia or the USA or Canada or Great Britain or France, and you're African, or you keep in your mind your African identity, you start to realize that there is something to your identity, and you're not going to accept being inferior to somebody else's culture and identity. And you begin to realize in that space while you're a student, even though there's, a lot of Caucasians and European culture around you, that you are not going to be marginalized, and you don't want to be marginalized. And you realize how much your culture has been marginalized, and how much your history has been marginalized, and why you don't see yourselves in the curriculum in the USA, and your Africa is just a footnote. You begin to understand the depths of colonization, and you begin to understand the impact and the damages of slavery or enslavement. You begin to understand that you are no lesser people in Africa. It's just that there's a world order that has placed you at that point of not just poverty, but ignorance and victimhood,
and self-awareness, or lack of self-awareness, or self-worthiness, or something.
Yes. All that comes into play. It comes into play again because at that point you begin to understand that there's a standard of beauty, and that standard of beauty does not include you. And for me, I think it's especially tougher on Black women, because Black women have to contend with that.
Do you know? It's funny you should say that, because I interviewed some children of the diaspora, one in England, and I said, is it true that it's hard for Black women to find husband? Because I know Black girls, accomplished, good looking, and they don't find husband, or if they find somebody, it would not be somebody that they would normally look at. If in Nigeria, they say, if it's not for you because I'm abroad, I would never have got out with somebody like you, kind of thing. Is it true?
It is. I mean, I've heard a lot of Nigerian women say, oh my God, America is a leveler. And that a leveler in the sense that, they can't really find people who meet them at the intellectual, emotional, psychological level, so to speak. And added to that is the aesthetic. because there's a constant aesthetic in the West that upholds a standard of beauty that has allowed the bleaching industry to do very well in a place like Nigeria, that has allowed the hair straightening industry to do very well in Nigeria.
Weave on. Oh, they've moved on. They've moved on from hair straightening. It's now weave on.
Oh, okay. So all that, that whole process, because it happened here as well. I mean, for many years, and it still does in the sense that how do you define beauty? What is, I mean, we're in a war. I mean, right now there's a Ukrainian war going on. Russia is invading Ukraine, and we talk about how basically people of African descent who are in Ukraine are not even getting any help.
Can you imagine?
And that the help and the focus of the news is on people in the West. I
mean, can you imagine? And apparently they even tell us to come and fight for them after discriminating.
Yeah. So all that was, you asked me about the driving force. All that is kind of a motivating force to say, you know what? There's something I'm missing here. There's something I'm missing in the context that I see in New York City. People from Brazil, people from Mexico, people from Jamaica, people from Great Britain, people from Canada, who are all of African descent.
Yeah.
Who are people, the same descent, who look like me, but who were taken to other places through enslavement. And again, then I even got curious about my own last name and how my own last name, Coker, came to be. Basically, the whole, journey of enslavement and Sierra Leone and Liberia and finally settling in Abeokuta, the grandparents, so all that begins to come to play, and you want to understand your place in world dynamics and structure. So for me, that was very important.
That was your Damascene moment. Was it a gradual thing or what? Or was it, did you have a light bulb moment?
No, it was gradual. It wasn't a light bulb. It was very gradual, because it was gradual in the sense that you're doing a graduate program, and gradually you're beginning to see that the curriculum is not really addressing your part of the world.
Right.
The options of courses are not addressing your part of the world.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of people that look like you in the program. There's, so it's a grad, and don't forget at that point apartheid was raging in South Africa.
Yeah.
So here I was in New York, really getting involved with South African theater, looking at race dynamics and the South African story, and comparing it to what I was seeing in what I was experiencing and seeing in the USA.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it affected me personally, like, oh my God, somebody was racist to me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, it occurred, yes, but I was able to, just shrug it off.
I beg Joe. And someone said, I didn't come all this way from Nigeria to let racism derail me.
It's many oceans, swam across the ocean, not ending up in anybody's part of it.
No way. I came all this way. I'm paying all this money. I'm going to let some character. I'll tell you one funny joke. There's this chap I know who said that a Nigerian, he came for an MBA or something in the US, and he got his first job. He was so excited, and everybody told him that madam, she's racist too. She's going to give you a hard time. He said, Igbo man, this woman is going to derail me, is a lie. Then he found out that she likes running. He had never run in his life. He started running with her. They started getting coffee together. He said,
become the running companion.
He said, by force, he became her new best friend. She couldn't be racist again. She became his greatest champion, and he was. And he said behind he would twitch his nose and said, "Jogger, and sit down. You think I'm here to come and let some skinny chick fail me?"
Hey. That's the thing. He basically found a soft spot.
Yeah.
And went through it. That's it.
Yeah. He knew she was racist, but he said, I'm not going to let that derail me. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going home, but I need to learn everything I need. I need to get money to pay back. I just, but you know what impresses me about you? What impresses me about you in particular is, you know, you could have taken the path of least resistance, played the system, you know, not necessarily calling out or making it your focus, and still, you know, like you said, make your bag and let these characters face their own front. But you confronted it not once, not twice, but constantly asserting who you are, asserting the things that drive you, and making those changes. Where did that come from? Is it just, we can't just write it off as a Nigerian Shangri now. What is it? What is the motivating factor?
I have always felt that, you know, you don't want to take up space. If you're taking up space and you're not making change and you're not contributing to change, it's a waste of time. Yeah. And I say that even here as director of the School of Theatre, TV and Film, that, I mean, this is the largest school at the university, one of the largest in terms of numbers.
Oh, wow.
The enrollment and the faculty. I mean, this is Southern California and everybody wants to do theater and film and television here. And so just the example of, you know, working with your colleagues and making your colleagues appreciate diversity.
Yeah.
Doing shows that are not Western shows. We just did A Raisin in the Sun.
Yeah, I know, that's iconic.
Doing large, huge and Raisin in the Sun as a main stage, you know, post-pandemic, one of the first plays in-person productions.
Was it well attended?
Large production. I just invited. Oh, very well. Very well. Fantastic. I mean, you know, we could have run for more nights.
Wow.
Yeah. Inviting Professor Bruce Onobrakwea.
Yes, I was so excited to see that.
In Nigeria,
and Professor Soyinka.
He's still here right now. And Professor Soyinka was my former, you know, still my mentor in many ways and good friend and teacher. To come and, you know, have a discussion with Bruce publicly, which, and Kenny Ekundayo, a curator from Lagos, and do this huge exhibit, huge, one of the largest exhibits and discussions that's ever occurred on this campus. But it's centered on Africa, you know, African creativity and bringing everybody into it to, you know, be part of it. 3 different school, you know, departments and schools to work on this. For me, like I said, that's the role of a university, is to enrich education and let people have the experience they would not otherwise have had, of this culture, this beautiful culture or cultures around the world, that actually make up humanity. And it's not one-dimensional. It's not just the Western. It enriches our lives in many ways. And so, I think for me, that's always been the driving force, and that's basically each place I've been. Basically, I've always looked at it like in Colorado. I said, you know, you guys have never done a Native American play. There's reservations 8 hours away.
I mean, Colorado's got so many Native Americans.
We have to do Native plays. And they said, well, we can't find any. I said, okay, we'll find one. And I actually went on the reservation in Ignacio, Colorado, sat with the tribal council. I mean, it's 8-hour drive from Denver down to Ignacio.
Gosh.
Which is in the Four Corners between Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. And, you know, speak with the tribal council and, you know, work on a production on their own story on how they ended up there in Ignacio, Colorado.
Yes.
And so we did a play with 100% Native Americans, you know.
Oh, wow.
And it was done.
Gosh. How did they feel? How did that make them feel? Oh,
satisfied, a sense of recognition.
Of being seen.
And this is your land. And this is a play that's saying this is your land. It was taken from you. And this is how it was taken. And this is how you got moved to Ignacio. and so basically it was that story that had nobody wanted to tell.
Yeah.
But it got told. I'll send you photographs and stuff later on.
Oh, please.
Of the
That is
production.
so heartwarming.
But it got told, and
yeah,
it was not. Yeah, initially it wasn't very popular, but eventually, everybody embraced it.
Wow.
Because usually, sometimes people don't want to confront truths like that because it's ugly. And then, of course, in Wyoming, I did a documentary on the Black 14, which were 14 athletes that got thrown out of the football team because they were protesting the Mormon church playing against BYU.
Oh, gosh. I didn't know that one.
The Mormon church's theology was that Africans or Black people belong to, or were, sons or children of the devil. And
well, yes, I heard that. And do you know the biggest push, the biggest church pushing into Nigeria at the moment is the Latter-day Saints. They're spending a shed load of money and building churches. So I don't know how that, maybe they've evolved or how their theology or their...
In 1976, the theology changed, and I have a recording of that where the Mormon bishop announced to the world that, God has spoken to him and God has said Black people are okay. And it was
I
right
shouldn't
after
be
that,
racist
of course,
anymore.
that the Mormon church, like all of the churches spread around the world, and because they needed to expand, go to Brazil,
well,
go to Nigeria,
they need people,
Africa,
and Africans are the ones breeding.
You need adherents. You need
bombs
adherents,
on seats.
otherwise your church gets smaller.
You'll die.
That's it.
Oh, wow.
That's it.
No, so I know you have to go soon, but I just wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
You've done so much there. Doesn't it break your heart as an old Ife person? Don't you wish this was happening in Ife? And how in touch are you with what's going on there?
The last time I was at Ife, I run an Africa World Documentary Film Festival, which is in about 12 countries.
That's another part of your handle. I mean, you're just so amazing.
Partner now with IREP, the last time I was at Ife was at an insistence that I had to have the documentary film festival show at Ife.
Right.
In that first year I was in Nigeria with the festival. I think it was 2011 or 2012, thereabouts. And
10 years ago.
That was the last time I went to Ife. And I was heartbroken throughout that entire trip. I was distraught. Ife, it wasn't the place I went to.
No.
The facilities were totally in disarray.
Oh, God.
The students were just lacked spirit. You could see it in their eyes. The ebullience of the campus and the fervor was not really there anymore.
The energy had gone out of it.
Everybody it was gone. It was gone. And it's really painful because one of the things I've always wanted to do was when my kids were in college at the university here, I always talk to them about, when I went to university and what kind of university Ife was, and it was, top notch. But I wanted to kind of have them come see, where I went to school and I just couldn't. No. I withdrew. I just couldn't, and I can't. I mean, they're done with college now, and they, adults and living their lives. But I just couldn't because it wasn't the same place, and that to me, and the fact that I want to come back and give, and I want to come back and do a lot of, ship. I mean, there was a time we tried shipping books. There was a time we tried doing a collection of money to redo the theater building and infrastructure and. To let such a powerful institution,
it's just so
get
destroying.
withered away like that.
It's so destroying. It's
destroyed. It's a treasure that we've lost, and I hope we can gain it back again. That kind of culture of inquisitiveness, because in many ways, listen, we went to a University of Ife where we didn't really pay tuition. We paid for housing.
Very little.
The food was great.
I know.
Cafeterias. The campus was safe. We had top-rate teachers. who we had access to, who would go on and win prizes years later on, international prizes, who had no problem exiting the country to top-rate institutions around the world. So the country gave us something. Yeah. I mean, such that when I finished at Ife, when I came to grad school in New York, I won every scholarship there was to win as the top student in the MFA program. And it was hard for my instructors to believe that I went to a university
in Nigeria
that they hadn't heard about.
Yes.
Because I was ahead of the class in terms of, what was it? Theater history, dramatic theory, dramatic structure. I mean, I was spouting off all the names and because Soyinka, Ogunbiyi, Omotoso, Chokma had prepared us.
Unbelievable.
Folabo Ajayi, they had prepared us well, sound, such that Stephen Langley, who wrote Theater Management in America, once called me to his office and said, wait, I'm confused. This degree you have is it a baccalaureate? I mean, are you sure it's not a master's you have of some sort? And I said, no, it's a baccalaureate. And of course, then we had to write a dissertation.
Yeah.
And I remember my dissertation was a comparative analysis of the Commedia dell'arte in Italy and Moses Olaya's comic technique.
Wow.
And that's the kind of thing you write at the master's or doctoral level.
Yes.
You had to get it bound.
Yes, I remember.
It had to get proofread. And you had to have an external examiner come in and your thesis went out for them to read it. And of course, Professor Soyinka was thesis committee dissertation chairperson.
He took no prisoners. He took no prisoners. You had to bring your A game.
Oh no, you had to come with. I will never forget. We were waiting on our final exam. I think it was Humanist Tradition in Drama. And as we were waiting on the exam, I recall very clearly that then they used to post it on the board. It hadn't been posted, and Professor Soyinka was supposed to turn in the grade.
Yes, the shame.
He drove up from Ibadan with his road safety corps people, right? And we all rushed up to his car outside the theater building, and we said, "Hey, Prof, how you doing, sir? Have you finished grading our exams? We're looking. We didn't see the grades on the walls." And he just looked at us, and he looked a bit befuddled. And he said, I'm just coming from this road safety corps thing. And there was this driver who ran into a car. And he was trying to explain how he ran into the car. And rather than speak in Yoruba, this illiterate driver was trying to explain himself in English. And it was giving us a headache. And I remembered, I thought to myself, why am I having this headache? Oh, yeah. Then I remembered your papers last night. I was reading it and I was getting the same headache I'm getting from this driver, which is our writing was just as poor as this public driver of a van who's trying to
and this man's Oyubo.
So
speak Oyubo.
Needless to say, we all just froze like, oh, Christ, crap. We've all failed.
Yes.
So it was like, oh, man.
Oh,
So nobody asked him again for days and days. We had to kind of sleep on that. And everybody was scared to go look at the board to see if he'd actually posted the grades on the board, But thankfully, we all did well. It was a little scary, but we all did well.
Yeah. And look where you all are today. Okay, well, we're going to get to the bit I like most. What I want to know is about you. What is the one thing remaining on your bucket lists?
What's the one thing on the bucket list?
Yep.
Huh.
Because you've done so much and you've achieved so much.
Oh, no, I don't. I think I've been blessed with the good fortune of sometimes being at the right place at the right time, or having the right qualifications, and
Now that's not very American. Americans accept praise, and now you're acting a bit British. He must be that Nigerian. It's God, though. It's God, though. It's not me. It's God.
It's Baba God.
Americans say, "Yeah, right. I did it. I did it."
No, as I always. I say to students and everybody else, I say, you're always standing on the shoulders of other people, whether you know it or not.
So what's on your bucket list?
One of those areas that I'm still very interested in, I started to work on it and I backed away because of my day job. I didn't have it, I want to return to it at some point, is getting closer to understanding Africans in the Pacific Islands.
Oh, right.
Papua New Guinea,
Wow.
Australian Aborigines.
Yes.
I've been fortunate to spend time in Fiji. And one thing about the Fijians is they are very proud of their Africanity.
Oh, fantastic. Because you don't get that. You don't hear that.
The Fijians tell you that they came from Africa. The ancestors sailed, east and ended up in Fiji. And if you go to the Fiji museums, Fijians are very proud of their African heritage. And
fantastic.
And again, but we don't get that. And the thing is, we as African people don't even see the connections, or we don't want to see the connections. You go to Vanuatu.
They don't even exist. They're not in our purview. We don't seem to know they're there. There's so much divide.
And I recall I was talking to a friend of mine who's we're classmates at Ife, and she's pretty high in government in Nigeria. I guess I won't name her, but she's pretty high in government, and she does diaspora work. And one of the things I said to her was, why do we still have a place like Focados?
Yeah.
Or why do we still have a place like
Escravos, yeah.
Okay, and you find people in Nigeria who tell you, "Oh, I'm from Escravos. I went to Escravos."
And they're very proud of it, too.
My auntie lives in Escravos.
Yes.
And Escravos in Portuguese simply means slaves.
No, there's
it
no
means slaves. And so if they named it Escravos, and we leave the name there, and we're independent, and language means a lot to what you call people and what you call yourselves and how you see yourselves. And so I can't imagine anybody from Portugal or from Brazil saying there's a town called Escravos and it still exists, and we never changed it.
Sad. Good Lord. Anyway, so Sunday morning, church or chill?
No, I really don't do church. I don't do church.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a real Ife person there. They don't do church in Ife.
Yes, I'll do the meditate. I'll do the believing in, a supreme being, a powerful force, a universal force of humanity.
No Yemoja, no Oshun, no Orisha.
Religion has its place, or I think spirituality to me is the most powerful thing, and I'm more of a spiritual person, and believe in that we're all spirits connected, and they're alternate parts of the universe we know nothing about, and our place and time is something that we even still know nothing about ourselves.
Who do you admire most?
Who do I admire the most? I would say my admiration is for people who have sacrificed and paved the way for us to be here. They've done simple acts to ensure that, we get to where we are. I was just talking to somebody here at the office who, had no clue of who Miriam Makeba was. And I said to him, there are a lot of nameless people who, for example, Mandela was in prison and nobody really knew he was in prison in the West. I understood what was happening with Mandela. Not until Makeba made the ultimate sacrifice of talking about him nonstop in the press here in the States and at the United Nations. And
right. Yes.
I've never known any Black man to free himself from prison unilaterally. And nobody recalled that, hey, there was this woman who sacrificed herself, named Miriam Makeba, to keep his name alive, and keep it in the consciousness of the West and in the conscience of the West. They're just a lot of nameless, faceless people who've just come giving their lives.
So it's not one person. It's more like a characteristic. I was hoping for one name apart from Miriam Makeba.
No. I was just saying, I give that as an example. One name.
Okay. Name one or two.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. There's several names. There's My father,
Oh,
for one,
fantastic.
who,
Yes.
basically, and I tell yeah, because it's really hard to raise, when you have a strong role model figure, or role model figure, you start learning that as a parent. You start appreciating as a parent what your parents went through, and the tenacity and the drive they put in you,
Yeah.
and the sacrifices they made.
That's good. So your dad is somebody
Yes, yeah, my dad, my mom, my parents. Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Okay. So what are you reading at the moment?
What am I reading at the moment? Let me. Have you? I just actually opened it. This is a very fascinating, and you might find it very funny. It's called The Physics of God.
Aha! We were just talking about God, the physics of God.
Yeah.
So what is it about?
The Physics of God. Basically, it's a book really that intrigued me because a cousin sent it to me. We got my cousin. I have a cousin in Scotland who's a physician, and we got into this debate or this talk about what is the physics of God? What is God? How do you define God? And
yes.
the whole thing about reincarnation, transcendence, quantum physics, the Big Bang Theory, how the universe came about.
Right, gosh, that's deep.
Yeah.
yes.
So
yes.
yeah, so this is a book written by scientists and a group of scientists and physicists who were looking at basically examining what is the physics around God, and the universe and the alternate universe and the different.
Would it be about creation? Is it about the creation?
Was there creation? Was there really a creation? Or is that, because our
I don't know, the Big Bang Theory, or what was
but was
there
that
in the
creation?
beginning?
What
was there in
yeah, was it the collision? Was it the collision of planets?
Was it
was it a collision that caused
it? But how did the planets start? Somebody must have created the planets.
Okay, so that's the question. Did somebody
I'd love to read that.
or did something, or is it a natural phenomenon?
Well, it's deep, and I if that book sheds some light on it, I'll be eternally grateful, because it sounds like a fascinating topic. Okay, now tell me, what music are you listening to at the moment? What's on your Spotify? Your current favorite song? Are you into Afrobeats?
I've done the Afrobeat, but I have the book on Fela. But I'll tell you one thing though, I can never get enough of Bob Marley or Steel Pulse.
Steel Pulse.
Yes, I could never get enough of Steel Pulse.
That's old school. Steel Pulse is old school. Are you kidding me?
You might call it old school, but if you listen to the lyrics, it's almost very, I hate to use the term, but prophetic. In that, we almost had a nuclear accident 2 days or 3 days ago, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Yep. But doesn't it make you think that all these prophetic people, and they always seem to die? So what is it?
Well, Steel Pulse is still going strong though.
Are they?
Yeah, I just saw them. I saw them 2 years ago before the pandemic.
Good Lord, these guys must be like how old?
They're going strong. If you've listened to their latest album, I think is one of the best.
I didn't even know they're still releasing albums. I don't know they're still releasing albums.
Their latest album is one of their best. I'll give you the title: Mass Manipulation. Wow. Mass Manipulation.
Oh, guys are still going.
Yeah, listen to Mass Manipulation.
That speaks to the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, Mass Manipulation.
That speaks to the moment.
Yeah, and the thing was, they had released a song called "Don't Shoot." They've released "Don't Shoot."
Don't Shoot.
Before,
good Lord.
Before you all started talking about.
Was this after George Floyd?
Way before this album came out, before George Floyd, came out before the SARS protests. And I just was thinking, man, if people during the SARS protests had listened to "Don't Shoot."
But what I'm saying is that isn't this heartbreaking? That the same thing over and over again?
Yeah, but I think the thing about art is that art keeps us conscious, and art helps us soothe the pain.
Yeah.
And I think it's Amiri Baraka in one of his writings who said, "Thank God for the blues. If there was not the blues, black folk would have choked off and killed off a lot of people. But the blues has allowed people to kind of basically work out,
express themselves,
therapeutically, yes.
Have an avenue for their.
That's it.
No, but the other side of that is that if it wasn't for the suffering of the black man, you wouldn't have the blues.
You wouldn't have the blues.
That's horrible.
That's true.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So apparently these people needed to have the pain, which is a terrible thing to do, to say to a body of people. Okay. What are you watching on Netflix, Amazon Prime, or whatever?
Exterminate the Brutes. Raoul Peck.
What's that?
Exterminate the Brutes.
Oh, I must.
By Raoul Peck.
Right.
Yeah.
What is it about?
It's about basically how people of color, Native Americans, Africans, Indians, were perceived in the early mid-18th century as the brutes that needed to be exterminated. And that theme of exterminating the brutes hasn't yet gone away, as we begin to see not just the genocides of different groups of peoples of color, and the techniques in which it was done, and the consciousness to have it done. And it's a very brilliant film because documentary series and film, because he goes back and forth looking at events that we think have passed and basically how they're correlating to current events today. Yeah, Exterminate the Brutes, Raoul Peck. Oh yeah, and the other thing everybody should read that I just finished reading, it's called The Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Ah.
The Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
I'm learning a lot. Who's that by?
Please, you have to read that. That is a must. That is a must, and I'll tell you why that's a must. I think anybody that's going to go into politics in a place like Nigeria, Africa, or the Caribbean, if you are not reading, because this is so detailed. It's an autobiography. It's an autobiography, and it's one autobiography that actually it wasn't supposed to be published. Right. It wasn't supposed to be published, and the person who published it allowed us to see the inner workings of the world and how the economy of most countries have been sabotaged before they even start.
Deliberately.
The author is a guy named John Perkins.
Yep. Certainly of African countries,
and South American countries.
Yeah, no.
Confessions of an Economic Hitman by Perkins. That is a must read for him.
And this chap, was he one of the actors or one of the perpetrators?
Oh yeah. It's his confession. Basically talking about how he got into the business, and it's a very deliberate business to look at destabilizing countries around the world to make sure that the economies are never theirs.
Oh, is that something to do with vulture funds and things like that?
Oh, no. It's much deeper than that.
Good Lord.
It's much deeper than that. Oh, no, it's not about funds. This goes to how basically, historically, there's an arm that basically works with, like governments. You have intelligence. In government. It's an arm that just deals with economics. And
so it's a form of economic espionage. It's economic espionage.
Yes, it's economic espionage.
Gosh.
Sabotage, espionage, whatever it takes.
I'm
whatever it takes.
Thank you. I thank you. If for nothing else, that one I must absolutely read. That is so shocking.
That is a must read. And he talks about how he ended up in the hospital after the book got released, and he had been poisoned.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on it. So
Yeah.
describe yourself in 3 words.
Yeah.
3 words. Describe yourself in 3 words.
In 3 words, I would just say, just compassionate, inquisitive, and creative. Yeah, creative.
I'm so impressed because you're one of the few people who didn't you didn't hesitate to name the 3. Most people start by being sort of a bit hesitant about describing themselves. Then they do 2, and then the third one, they sort of can't think of the third one. But you had the 3 down pat, just like that. That's good. So unto thyself be true.
I think about, I hear from my colleagues, so, I hear from my colleagues.
That's brilliant. Okay, now you have to tell me a joke.
I thought I already told you I told the joke. Okay.
I'm waiting.
I thought I told you. Okay, I'll tell you another one.
No. That one was part of the story. So you now have to tell me the proper joke.
This is a real life. This is a real life one. When I first came to grad school, in 1984, 85, in New York, there was another fellow Nigerian who was at a different graduate school, not undergraduate, it was graduate school too. And we used to meet at this coffee shop, a bodega. They call it a bodega in New York. And he was very inquisitive. Well, he was curious. He was really curious. Yeah. He was curious as to how, how you put a quarter in Nigeria, you have vendors all over the place who sell in the newspapers.
Yes.
Right? They sell in the papers.
Yes, you collect it from them.
He was wondering why. You put the quarter in, you open it, you take one out.
You take one out. Why don't you take 2?
He was wondering, why do people just take one out? Take 2, 3, 4, 5.
And make a business.
So one day he decides, he went in, he put the quarter, he opened the thing, and he removed 30, 40 newspapers in there. And went to another corner of the street and was looking for, trying to sell him.
Yeah.
And people were just walking by him looking like, and I thought, what are you doing? And he said, well, it's the paper. I mean, he was in there, and rather than them put the money in there, they could take it from him and buy it. And so he brought the street vendor mentality. Yeah. And so he was saying, this thing, why do they trust people to just take one? So if I go there, I put in a quarter and I open it up, I take it all out. Yeah, he thought, okay, let me try this, I may as well. So culturally, it translated for him in that way. And I understood what he was doing. But I thought, man,
But did he sell? Did people buy from him?
But he learned his lesson.
People didn't buy from him.
I mean, because that's unusual. That's unusual.
Yeah,
like, people aren't got me. He's standing on the street corner telling people, here's a paper. Times,
But they do that in England,
and so he thought,
standard, we learn about it.
They remove everything.
Yeah. No.
Those are free, though. Those are free.
No, they used to sell the Standard when I was commuting in London. The Evening Standard. Oh, now they give it away.
Okay, but then they would have
But in those days, they have a little stall, and somebody will be there holding it to you. Well, a stall, like a little thing, and then they'll be trying to give you one, and you give them a coin or something. Yeah. I just hope he changed his ways, Sha.
Oh, he has. Yes.
He has.
I mean.
That's sad. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I've had an amazing conversation. Now, if people want to get hold of you, how do they get hold of you? Are you on social media? Are you?
I guess my email is ncoker@sdsu.edu. ncoker Niyi Coker ncoker@sdsu San Diego State University.edu.
Thank you. Are you on Instagram, Twitter?
No, I don't. My film festivals are, but I'm not.
Thank you so much. I hope you come to Nigeria soon. I really do, because I think you've got so much to create. I want you to go and see the few people still holding up the theater in Nigeria, terra culture. They're trying. Obviously, it's not where it could have been, but we hope things get better.
Yeah, I'd love to.
And
I'd really love to. I'd love to.
Yes, I'll see you soon.